Hello, everyone. Hey, thank you for joining me. Your presence is appreciated. Let's go ahead and get into this book review. Today, I will review the book The Joy of Falling by Lindsay Harrel. And this is the cover of the book. Very nice cover. All right, let's go ahead and get on into this, okay? A tragedy starts this book off on an emotional roller coaster, okay? Thrill seekers Brent and his brother Wes die in a sea diving accident, okay? The book starts off with a bang. I mean, that's some intro, okay? This left their families in a state of grief and recovery. Eva, Brent's wife, was left with a business and a lot of disposable income. Angela, Wes's wife, was left with 3 children to support. Both ladies were at a point in their life where they could remain on the path of perpetual grief, anger, and uncertainty, or take a leap into the unknown. Eva receives a call one day about Brent having signed up for a marathon prior to his death that she knew nothing about. She didn't know nothing about this. Eva decides to honor her husband, though, and keep the slot for the 3-person marathon team. With some doing, Eva recruits Angela to participate. Brent's business partner, Mark, was already part of the intended team. The preparation for this marathon was emotional and physically challenging for the ladies. A decision was made to travel to New Zealand to train in the environment for which the race would be held. This transition to a new environment proved to be just what the family needed. They were away from their daily lives. They were away from the typical distractions in your hometown. It got them away from the memories. And just a new place, a new perspective, a new environment. And so while in this new place, friendships were formed and healing took place. This journey showed that people grieve differently and how others interpret that process. Angela was perceived as not showing signs of grief, kind of that just getting on with life. She had 3 children to take care of. She couldn't drop the ball in order to grieve, and she had to help her children with this grief of their father dying. So she was perceived as not really grieving adequately based on others' expectations of how she should grieve. Eva was perceived as visibly grief-stricken. She, cried all the time. She continued to talk about her husband and kind of lived in a state of memorializing her husband. It was one of those, she definitely showed that she had lost her love, and it has deeply affected her. The children's grief was briefly mentioned but not delved into by the author. It kind of, wouldn't say glossed over it, but it seemed that their grief was not the focal point of this story. So it was mentioned, but not as in depth as the two adult ladies in this story. The child most mentioned in the storyline is Kaylee, which is Angela's teenage daughter. Now, the dynamic between Angela and Kaylee is strained due to the processing of grief differently. Kaylee feels that mom, is not really grieving for the dad, which brings up some residual questions about their marriage and relationship. The story does kind of touch on the typical teenager angst, moods, growing pains, which Angela is not prepared to deal with. The training process was tough. And it was tough on Angela, mainly because she hadn't exercised like this in years. She didn't have time for that. She had a family. She had kids. She didn't have time to exercise and to even be remotely prepared for this marathon. Angela ran track in high school, so she kind of reverted back and drew upon that strength and training from her past track experience. Okay, now Eva was fit and was a regular runner, and she could hold her own, but she was not on the level that was necessary for this marathon. So she had struggles as well for training for this event. Mark, which I felt Mark was a side character, in my opinion, for the most part. He really didn't have like a strong continued presence in the book. He was kind of here and there with it. He was the business partner of Brent. And so he knew the family, and so they weren't strangers. I mean, Eva, Brent, and Mark would go on these adventures, for lack of a better word. So they knew each other. Mark was very athletic, and it didn't seem like he had any issues in the book with the length of this run. It was just like, it was like a walk in the park for him almost, it seemed like. So through this training process though, it gave Angela and Eva time to dig deep into their feelings about the death of their husbands and what to do with the next phase of their lives. I think running the marathon was an accomplishment in and of itself. It tested them. It kind of showed them to draw on their inner strength. It drew Angela and Eva closer together in a sense. They had a common goal, and they had to help each other to reach that goal. They had to push each other. They had to support each other in order to get through this process. So that relationship, on some levels, grew. So this book gave a look into the life of this family and how they picked up the pieces and determined what to do with the rest of their lives. The author did have some touching moments in the story, but not overly sappy. I mean, it was pretty warm, but not something that's gonna make you cry buckets. Okay. I will let you read the book to find out what revelations the ladies had during this process, what paths for the future they decided on, and if the new friendships remained intact after returning home. So I'm gonna let you read the book to find that out. You have to read the book to find out if they even finished the race or not. Yeah, you gotta go and read the book to find that out. Okay, so I will say that this book is what I would call a slow burn pace. It was kind of even keeled. It didn't have any extreme highs or extreme lows. It was kind of baseline. This is a good book. It's a good read. I gave this a 4 out of 5. So click like and share. If you've read the book, comment your thoughts. Until next time, keep turning the pages.